Hello, everyone. So the first question I chose to answer from Chapter 6 was define the term semantic information distance, then discuss an instance in your professional life where you've seen semantic information distance impact how people in different positions of authority or across employment classifications may interpret the same experience. Discuss how these differing interpretations impact relationships in the workplace or organization. Use text to support your response. So in the text, it talks about semantic information distance, and it gives the definition of like an employer and an employee being on different levels, where the employer thinks that like the employees know that their values are heard and that like they have a say in what the company does, and then the employees thinking the opposite in that their values aren't heard, their opinion doesn't matter, that kind of stuff. So like being on those different levels. um I've never really seen this in my professional life because I've never worked outside the family business. Is a kind of a reoccurring thing for me. But I mean, I've definitely seen it like in the school systems, like the principals or like in a sports program, like a coach will be like, hey, like, come, like, if you're working hard and this and this and this, like, we're going to take you over the person who's talented. And like sometimes that might be true, but other times like they're just going to take the talent because he's going to do what's best for the team. And so that kind of stuff. Or a coach saying like, if you come to me, I'm going to give you what you need to do to get better. And sometimes like if you're to do that, the coach will just blow you off and say like, there's nothing you can do. So those are examples, not in my personal life, but that I've heard from other people. Um, the second question I chose to answer was number 3. Our authors discuss communicating with your boss and offer some tips using the text. Explain, then analyze their advice. Is it good advice? What are the drawbacks or negative aspects of following their advice? What tips would you add to this advice and why? So in the text, in that section specifically, the talking to your boss section, it talks a lot about how like being professional, and everything needs to be like very spick and span and like super super cut and dry, and like no personal stuff with your boss. But I think it's very another thing that's very situational, like depending on what kind of relationship you have with your boss. If he's talking to you in that, or he or she is saying like friendly things, but or you're in a workplace where that's accepted, like I think it's more okay to do it there. But if you're in a workplace where that's not something that should be happening, then obviously you're going to do more what the text says. So like most things, situational, very, you have to kind of judge that for yourself. But um, from chapter 7, the two I chose to answer, the first one is share a time you worked on an unsuccessful group project. How would information from this chapter helped your group be successful? Share a time you've worked on a successful group project. How can you use this information from this chapter to frame and explain your group experience? Be sure to cite, but be thorough in your explanation. So I can kind of use the same thing for both, but an unsuccessful group project was, I mean, I've had so many group projects through school, coming up through high school. And one of the unsuccessful ones that I can vividly remember, there was a lot of like no conflict, like everything kind of just worked, and we didn't end up meshing together very well. And so it ended up being a really bad presentation, and I don't think we got a very good grade on it. But um, on the other side of the spectrum, the text talks about how conflict in a team is a good thing. And so I remember in my history class my junior year, or my sophomore year, we had this group project and we had to make a poster. I don't remember what it was about exactly, but I remember there was a lot of like conflicting ideas, and we had to like narrow it down to what we wanted to do and figure all that. But it was good conflicting ideas, and we like negotiated and figured out which was the best for our project, and it actually turned out to be a really good project, and we got a really good grade on it. So that kind of thing, how conflict can be a good thing in the business world, and it definitely can be helpful if monitored the right way, and not if it doesn't get taken out of hand. The second question, what roles are you most likely to assume in a professional work group? What about in a school or class group? And what kind of group roles do you struggle with most? Be thorough and cite the text as you share your experiences. So for me, it kind of depends on the situation again. But I'm more of a leader, I feel like. I've always been in leadership positions growing up, and especially when I'm comfortable around my peers, which in my hometown, it's a very small town, and so you kind of get to know everyone, and I was super comfortable with everyone, so I was very, very much a leader in which is both can both be a good thing and a bad thing. I mean, leader in the community, everyone's watching what you do all the time, so you kind of have to be on your toes and set a good example for those that are watching you, especially the younger kids growing up. I was heavily involved in athletics and high school athletics, and so I was always trying to set a. I remember as a kid looking up to athletes above me, and so I tried to include those kids and like do what I would have wanted high school athletes to do. Not that they didn't, but like, saying hi to them and giving them a fist bump and that kind of stuff and being a leader like that. What kind of group roles do I struggle with the most? I don't really think I think I can accept my role pretty well anyway. Um, it is hard sometimes not being in a leadership role, and if someone's doing something in a leadership role that I don't really agree with, I can struggle with that sometimes. But I think, like the text says, through compromise and managing conflicts, that would be the best way to go about it. So yeah, that's all I got for the week.